Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we are focusing all our attention on Newmont Corporation, obviously one of the world's leading names in precious metals, and we're approaching a pretty pivotal earnings moment for them.
That's right. Their Q3 2025 earnings release, it's scheduled for October 23rd. And this quarter is, well, it's really unique, isn't it? Newmont is kind of sitting at the intersection of two really powerful forces that are defining its future, maybe more than its past.
Oh, absolutely massive forces. I mean, first, you've got this incredible, almost strategic move by the company to finalize a huge asset divestiture program. We're talking about restructuring the whole foundation, generating billions in cash.
Right.
And second, this is all happening while global gold prices have just surged. I mean, a stunning peak above $3,900 per ounce. So yeah, this isn't just an earnings report. It feels more like the financial result of a massive strategic identity shift.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And look, if you find this type of analysis valuable for, navigating the market, please think about hitting that subscribe button, liking this discussion, maybe leaving us a comment. And definitely, if there's a specific company or sector you want us to look into down the road, drop us a comment below. Try and prioritize it. Okay, so how did Newmont actually get here?
Right. Let's start with the buildup. The narrative leading into this Q3 period, so that's the quarter ending September 30, 2025. This whole year really has felt like a masterclass in capital discipline from them. Newmont's been systematically shedding non-core assets. The focus seems to be solely on their high-margin Tier 1 projects.
Yeah, and it's more than just like trimming the fat. It feels like a fundamental restructuring. They're actively moving away from being this, volume-driven conglomerate and trying to become a leaner, cash-generating investment vehicle, sort of the ultimate high-margin play in the gold sector.
And the cash they've pulled in is just staggering. The most recent catalyst, I think, was that sale back in August 2025 of their 13% stake in Orla Mining. That one sale added, what, $900 million to their war chest?
Exactly. And when you zoom out, look at the big picture, it's the scale that really grabs your attention. That whole divestiture program, finalized through 2025, has generated up to $4.3 billion gross proceeds. And that cash isn't just sitting idle. It's deployable capital. And you can see the market's already sort of rewarding them for that strategic vision.
Yeah, we saw that reward last month, didn't we? After their Q2 results came out, they showed beats on both EPS and revenue. And analysts, well, they jumped on that pretty quickly.
They did.
Upgraded Newmont to strong buy. Price targets started popping up above $100. So I guess the expectation bar for this Q3 report must be incredibly high given all that positive momentum.
The bar is definitely high, yeah. But the wind is kind of at their back, too. What's fascinating here is that even if they execute perfectly internally, they're getting boosted by this incredible macro tailwind. The sustained strength of gold prices, you mentioned peaking near $4,000 an ounce, that provides a massive margin buffer. It means, inflation can rise, but as long as that gold price holds up, their valuation multiples look stellar compared to peers. Every single ounce they report is just significantly more valuable than analysts might have projected even 6 months ago.
And you could see that belief in the trading data, too, right before the quarter closed. In October, we saw pretty substantial inflows into gold and silver mining equities. Newmont was leading the pack.
Right. ETF rebalancing.
Exactly. Large institutional investors rebalancing their ETFs. It signals that the professional money managers are confident Newmont's best positioned to capture these high gold prices. So that powerful setup, strategic and macro, brings us right to the Q3 earnings release on the 23rd. Now, the data we have doesn't give us explicit analyst consensus estimates for Q3 revenue or EPS, so we can't just focus on one profit number. How do we actually grade the success of this, monumental strategic shift then?
Well, we have to shift our focus entirely to the operational metrics. That's where the story is. These numbers tell the true story of profitability, and maybe more importantly, they confirm whether the remaining Tier 1 assets can actually perform under pressure. We need those key metrics, the one that translate that $4.3 billion cash pile into real operating profits.
Okay, let's start with the one that often trips up miners after a big asset sale, production volume.
First one is attributable gold production. Okay, so Newmont reported 1.5 million ounces in Q1 2025. That was up sequentially. The core insight here, I think, is that Newmont's shifting from a volume story to a margin story. So analysts will be looking at Q3 to make sure the sequential growth continues. It's kind of a paradox, right? They sold assets, but the market expects the remaining core mines to produce more efficiently to offset those sales.
Yeah.
Consistency is key.
Okay, and second, the ultimate measure of operational mastery, all in sustaining costs, AISC. the dreaded cost metric.
Yeah, this is maybe the most critical number for gold miners' profitability. AISC isn't just labor or fuel, right? It's the total cost to get an ounce of gold out of the ground,
Yeah.
including the capital you need to keep the mines running long term.
But hold on. If they just sold off non-core, presumably higher cost assets, shouldn't we expect their costs to fall?
That's a really good point. So if AISC is stable, or worse, if it's rising, that implies trouble in those remaining top-tier mines. And that would directly pressure those, potentially robust margins. It's the ultimate benchmark of efficiency in managing inflation.
Right, because if AISC is high, it just eats away at the benefit of $3,900 gold.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally, let's look at the pure capital flexibility, free cash flow, FCF.
Right. Think of FCF as basically Newmont's profit after they've paid all the bills and fully funded their maintenance budget for the next year. Newmont showed incredible financial strength back in Q1 2025, reporting a record $1.2 billion in FCF for that quarter.
$1.2 billion is huge.
It's huge. And it's not just revenue. It's pure, deployable, strategic capital. Analysts are anticipating continued momentum here, especially with Q3 hitting those peak gold prices.
We also can't forget about what management themselves promise. Newmont has guided to being on track to meet our 2025 guidance. So the Q3 results absolutely must offer rock-solid confirmation of this. Operational sustainability. A reduction in guidance, even if the quarterly numbers look okay on the surface, that would likely be met with pretty swift punishment by the market.
Absolutely. Guidance is crucial.
Okay, so you've established this strong operational and financial runway. But, the market never stops moving. Even if the Q3 report on the 23rd is a success, what are the key external drivers the market will be looking at for Newmont in the, say, 3 months after this report?
Yeah, good question. The focus kind of shifts then from internal company execution to external market structure and how the biggest investors are positioning themselves. We got 3 pretty crucial dates coming up that will signal sentiment.
Okay, what's the first calendar event we should be tracking?
November 15th, Gold Miners ETF rebalancing. Now, because Newmont is such a sector leader, a major component of these big funds, this routine activity might actually boost liquidity and price volatility, as large index funds adjust their holdings. If Newmont outperformed its peers in Q3, you could see increased buying pressure during this rebalancing.
Interesting. And then in December, we get that crucial peek behind the institutional curtain, right?
Exactly. December 5th, we get the institutional 13F filings. These filings are always a bit delayed, but they're vital. They tell us exactly which mega funds, think BlackRock, Vanguard, dramatically increased or maybe sold off their Newmont holdings 3 months prior. It signals shifting sentiment from key stakeholders, gives us a peek at where the quote-unquote smart money is positioning heading into the new year. Are the financial giants actually buying into this strategic pivot?
Right. And finally, the first big reality check for the new year, confirming sustainability.
Yeah, January 24, 2026. Q4 preliminary earnings preview. This event is really crucial. It confirms if the Q3 and Q4 operational performance was sustainable into the new year, or, was the massive cash generation just a temporary blip from high gold prices and good divestiture timing. The market wants proof that this leaner operating model is viable long-term.
Okay. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. When you have $4.3 billion in asset sale proceeds, plus a record, $1.2 billion in quarterly free cash flow, that kind of money starts burning holes in executives' pockets, right? Surging cash plus restructuring always breeds market speculation. What are the top, say, 4 rumors swirling around Newmont right now that are driving market chatter?
Well, given their newfound cash flexibility and this commitment to optimization, speculation is definitely running high. It seems to center on 4 key fronts, all about how they deploy that capital.
Okay, let's start with the one that screams predator.
Right. Merger and acquisition speculation. There are ongoing rumors suggesting Newmont could leverage that war chest to pursue more consolidation, specifically in North American mining. Buying a competitor lets them instantly absorb proven assets, eliminate a threat, and really consolidate their lead.
But if they do M&A, how does that play against the next rumor, the one that's usually pretty popular with shareholders?
Yes, that's the inherent conflict.
Yeah.
The second rumor is the dividend increase possibility. That surging FCF and the asset sale money have prompted speculation about maybe a special dividend announcement before year-end. Shareholders often demand a reward after major restructuring, right? But every dollar used for a special dividend is a dollar not used for M&A or something else.
Right, a trade-off. Now, the third rumor suggests a pretty major strategic pivot, maybe away from their core competency.
That's the expansion in copper production chatter.
Yeah.
Market talk persists that Newmont might accelerate copper exploration and development. We've seen this kind of pivot before with other major miners trying to diversify, years ago. Copper is seen as this future-facing metal vital for electrification. So while the market loves gold, betting big on copper could provide long-term diversification. But, and it's a big but, it comes with significant execution risk and huge capital expenditure needs.
Definitely a different ballgame. And finally, after selling $4.3 billion worth of assets, are they actually done slimming down?
Well, a fourth rumor says maybe not. Potential asset divestitures, again. Some analysts argue the optimization isn't quite complete yet. They suggest maybe additional disposals in regions like Latin America or Australia could further streamline the portfolio that would enhance immediate returns, generate even more FCF. The market's constantly debating what truly counts as a Tier 1 asset for Newmont these days.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize all this. You've got strong cash generation, high gold prices, the divestiture program is done, but massive strategic choices lie ahead. What does this all mean for the immediate future? What are the potential price reaction scenarios we should maybe consider around this Q3 earnings report?
Okay, let's break down the potential reactions into maybe 3 scenarios, always keeping in mind the volatility you get in the gold sector.
Let's start with the upside of the bullish case.
All right, we'd place probably a 40% probability on the bullish case. This would be driven by exceptional execution. So AISC, stable, or even better, falling below expectations. Production holding steady despite the divestitures. And confirmed guidance. If they also maybe hint at a major capital deployment like that special dividend or a really smart M&A move, then you could see an implied price reaction of, say, plus 5% to plus 10%.
Yeah.
That record Q1 free cash flow of $1.2 billion gives this case some solid historical footing, too.
Okay, makes sense. And what about the base case, where they just kind of meet expectations?
The base case, we think, holds the highest probability. Let's call it 50%. This happens if the results are largely in line with management's guidance and the performance we saw in the prior quarter. Specifically, if AISC is flat, production is flat sequentially. Consistent execution like that is often preferred by the big institutional investors. This scenario implies a pretty stable price reaction, probably within, plus or minus 3%, kind of as steady as she goes.
All right. And finally, the risk, the bearish case.
Yeah, we assign a low 10% probability here, but it's critical to consider. This would get triggered by disappointing attributable production volumes, or maybe higher than expected all-in sustaining costs, showing that cost inflation is hitting harder than the gold price can absorb. Or, critically, a sudden reduction in the full year 2025 guidance. If any of that happens, the stock could easily drop negative 5% to negative 10%.
Okay, so pulling all that together then, what's your overall market leaning for Newmont over the next few months?
Given the strong execution we've seen on the divestitures and that huge macro tailwind from gold, our overall leaning is probably neutral to slightly bullish. Let's put a confidence score on it, maybe 6 out of 10. But that's really contingent on 2 big things: sustained gold strength and how strategically they actually use that $4.3 billion in capital.
That's a really helpful breakdown for framing the expectations. Thanks. So the final takeaway for you, the listener, really seems to be this. Newmont isn't just a gold miner anymore, not right now. It's become a capital deployment story. The near-term performance is going to hinge not just on these immediate Q3 metrics, but also on how the market perceives the effective reinvestment of those massive asset sale proceeds. It's really about what they do with the cash they've already generated.
Exactly. And that strategic choice is the core conflict, isn't it? Building on those rumors, the special dividend possibility versus the copper expansion chatter, the ultimate question facing Newmont's management right now is, do they prioritize returning this substantial cash to shareholders immediately, rewarding them for the tough restructuring? Or do they accelerate a strategic push into long-term diversification, maybe through copper, maybe through M&A? That choice, that fork in the road between immediate shareholder reward and long-term strategic growth, that's what's likely going to shape the company's valuation trajectory for the next year.
A truly compelling dynamic to watch unfold indeed. Thank you for tuning into this analysis. We'll catch you next time on Investing Talk Podcast.